looking for, you actually got it, right? And our winner for this morning, the question, what having listened to what Stanbic Bank has to offer, and when it comes to planning wisely, what attracts you on your path towards securing your legacy? And who is this morning? Saidi Mwana Kombo is our winner for this morning, telling us how Stanbic has really given him the life that he has been looking for, sustainability of his business, and being able to get a lot of things on for his personal life as well as his business. Thank you, Spice FM, for this great.
Very good. Said is actually saying that as he was typing this, he was at the Hub Karen branch of Stanbic Bank for a loan facility top-up, and the 25k going into that account will go a long way in making the holidays merrier.
25,000 shillings to you.
Very good. Very good.
He's
Congratulations.
Not my friend.
He's now your friend.
Saidi should now be your friend. Dr. Mahmoud Merali, consultant medical psychologist at the Aga Khan University Hospital. We are talking about substance use in teenagers. These are some of the things that you have observed from the clients that come to you, from the conversations that you have with your clients, and what you're able to then to pick out is there's an issue. And that's what you started by saying, I'm worried. I'm worried that there's an issue. Is there anybody else who is worried?
I think parents are worried. It's not that they're not. And I think most medical institutions today are worried because they're probably all seeing the trends that we are seeing. So it's not that it's not concerning. It's probably also a worry for the upper adolescent age, 25 onwards, because they can probably see dependencies creeping in, mental health issues creeping in. So it's not that they are not worried. It's how we are all dealing with it that seems to be at variance, maybe. That we can acknowledge there's a problem. We can sense it. We know the causes. We know the effects. We don't seem to get it right as to what to do.
Siti.
You know, the what Dr. Mahmoud is talking about is what you call food for thought. Why I asked the question about the adults is this. Every day when we read the papers, the things that keep shocking us and depressing us are the atrocities we see being committed by grown-ups. Some of these things are directed at children. Some of these things is adults against adults.
Right.
And it's not as though it's decreasing. They are getting more and more bizarre. You hear of decapitations. You hear of body parts. The other day we heard of somebody, there were some boiled bones next to the Nairobi National Park. And we're thinking, what on earth is happening here? It's out of an A-listed horror movie. I mean, where every second you're supposed to be shocked and horrified. What exactly is happening?
I think because mental health is becoming big, it's becoming much more, we are becoming more aware of it. That's one. And what is then happening is we are focusing now a lot more on it than probably was there. It's not that these atrocities were probably not there in the past. They probably were. And I hope what you're drinking is coffee.
Water.
We all hope.
We can all hope. Or should I say, we can all live with hope.
I've heard that long enough. Oh, that was a light note.
Yes.
But, and it's not that these atrocities didn't exist, they did. And that now that we are focusing a lot more on it, so there's a lot more unearthing of it. There's a lot more media attention to it, that kind of thing. And so what is happening is we are seeing a lot more of it, as opposed to probably what other news we used to get in terms of whether it was sporting activities, whether it was roads, floods, things like that. But having said that, yes, it is definitely much more bizarre. It's much more at a different level that we are seeing, which probably wasn't there before. And it seems almost like it's progressed. And that then brings the question that is mental health deterioration that probably was there, is that progressing as well? Is that getting worse? Are we ending up with a different types of now mental health issues that we probably didn't have to think about before?
You see, when one thinks of mental health, one probably thinks of things that bring about death. But you see, what we discuss here sometimes has to do with the decision making of people who are in authority. The gentleman who was here just before, we were discussing the school feeding program, and we're looking at the gaps in it. And it led to a larger discussion of how is it that people who are tasked with managing the country, who are tasked with making laws and making decisions for the rest of the country, why do they appear to be so deaf and blind when it comes to making decisions or implementing things that will actually help people, despite the fact that all of them have constituents who need the very things that we're talking about? And the manner in which they exercise the impunity seems to be getting more and more brazen. It is no longer an issue of somebody does something that is untoward and is hiding. There is no hiding. It is out in the open and it is in your face. Would you say that this constitutes a form of mental health deterioration?
It definitely has an effect in terms of the prevention programs, in terms of awareness programs, in terms of highlighting the issues so that strategies can be put in place. And my view is that it's probably because there's so much firefighting going on politically as well, that they're so busy day to day working on things that the real problems, it's not that they're not aware and it's not that things are not happening. That's not in the forefront. What is in the forefront is the firefighting, the day to day politics, if you want to call it. And it doesn't mean that things are not happening. I mean, if you look at the great work that NACADA is doing, they have got studies, they have got programs in place, structures in place. But because the forefront is everything else, what they are doing is not coming up to the front to say, hey, there's a program going on here. Let's highlight it more so that people are more aware that there is help available. And so we tend to then not look at it that we almost think it's ignored. It's not necessarily ignored. It's probably happening, but more in the background rather than the foreground.
Let me give you an example of what I mean. When you were growing up and you went to a public hospital, you would find medicine. When you went to school, if it was a primary school, most schools that people went to were public schools.
Yes, including me.
Yes, there are schools of choice. In fact,
Yes.
people went to schools, public schools, as schools of choice.
Absolutely.
Right? The opposite is true now, with the exception of probably the so-called national schools or some county schools which are of repute. Most public schools which are day schools are not in a good state because they are overcrowded. Everything about it is not what it was.
Right.
So I could say, one would have hoped that from where some of us started off, things would be infinitely better now.
Right.
Because we know more, we have more money. But that isn't the case. Now, if you have pressure or you have the optics of something which is going wrong at a level where decisions are supposed to be made, I am arguing that it has an effect on the people who consume whatever this narrative, people who have to relate to this narrative, because it impacts their lives directly.
Right.
If they have children, it impacts on the children, because we're talking about children and the abuse of substances. Adults also abuse substances, and probably even more than children, because one,
Absolutely.
they have the means to abuse it.
Yes.
Now, would you say that substance abuse, in the broadest way possible, is on an increase in this country?
I don't think there's any doubt to that. I don't think there's any doubt that it's in an increase. The difference being, it's not in an increase in one direction. It's in an increase in different directions. There are different dimensions to drug use. So if we go back 30, 40 years when we were in school, what was the drug of use? It was weed.
Yes.
Mira existed.
Yes.
Cut. That was about it.
True.
Yeah. We may have heard about heroin and cocaine, but we never even thought we'd ever even see it. What do we have today on the market? We are as good as the West. and its affluence has come in, and that's parental affluence. It's not children's affluence. They are not the rich ones. Parents are rich, probably giving the kids a little more pocket money, and the kids are exposed to all of these things. And then because of the influencing factors that we talk about, family, environment, pressures of life, self-esteem, blah, 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 peer influence, social cultures, etc., what has happened is they have that availability. And so why not give it? Teenagers will experiment. Today they are able to experiment with a lot more. They have a variety of experimentations that they can do. And there are new ones coming all the time. I mean, we are not talking about crack and cocaine and pills and that. We are talking about, you've heard of Jambu juice, the new one on the market.
What on earth is Jambu juice?
Welcome to the real world. Mira, there's a juice taken out called Jambu juice. And that's the new one on the market. And there are people looking at how they can bottle it and market it. And so we've got a new one. It's going to be tried because when it's there, that kid is going to say, have you tried it? You don't want to say no. You want to fit in. So you'll give it a try.
And it's just juice.
And it's just juice, technically.
Right.
And so eventually what will happen when I would try weed, and then tomorrow I try cut, and then I try a pill, and then I try jam. Before you know it, I've got a problem coming in. It's tripped or something in my head. I've got a mental issue coming in. Known to contribute. Because why? I didn't stick to one. And if I stick to one, I'm sticking to different dimensions of one.
Yeah.
Before you know it, like I said, there's 2,000 types of weed. You can imagine mixing 10 types in a span. What's going to happen? Something is going to trip.
Something
Something is going to go wrong.
Yeah. So, if we know that there is, we can see that there's a burden of dependence,
Right.
abuse,
Right.
of drugs, right? I still don't understand why we separate, drugs and alcohol, but okay. We know that there's an overdependence. We know that there are quite a lot of young people also in treatment, in
Correct.
rehab and things like that. We also know that the nation has declared mental health, which we know sometimes is coupled with this abuse, a disaster, an emergency. What are we seeing that is or can be done to reduce the numbers that we are seeing, and also to reduce the potency of these addictions?
So I think there's quite a few things that can be done. And yes, from the government point of view, we say they're doing what they can. But remember, drug and substance abuse didn't start at government level. It started at home level. It started with a teenager who's living at home or in a boarding school with one or two parents or guardians and peers and the influences from home and the influences in school. And when you start compounding those influences, you have a trigger. So I think parents have got a lot more responsibility than they think they do. The concept of putting a child in a boarding school and saying the school will groom them, that's just washing your hands. You put your kid in a boarding school and say that school has good values, it's a religious school, etc., etc. It's a school nonetheless. It has peer influence nonetheless. It has social, cultural, environmental influences. But you've just taken away the home influence, the values, the principles, the talks, etc. And you've given them to somebody else and say, please bring up my child and give him back to me good. That's not going to happen. You're just taking away your own responsibility and saying that school should have done A, B, C, D. My kids started weed in school. Where were you? That's not the school's child, it's your child.
I was paying school fees. I was looking for the
There
money.
you are, there you are.
There's somebody who just sent me a message saying that it's not just Mira, even Bangi has juice.
Sorry?
Okay.
Oh, you can make juice?
I've just been informed.
I've just been enlightened.
Yes.
Don't see anymore.
And then don't forget, I mean, weed has progressed. It used to be just weed that was put in a newspaper and smoked.
Yeah.
Or the cigarette roll papers and smoked.
It was called Rizla.
Okay. You're from that generation.
I'm from that generation. Yes.
Well, all right then.
yes. Those nice small packets with the
Yes,
you could
exactly.
lick it and stick it.
Yes.
what has happened is you get weed in cookies, you get weed in cake, you get weed in juice, you get it in sodas, etc. And then the youngsters are very, very tech savvy. So today, if you start Googling and saying, where can I get hemp juice? Also, you'll find somebody who's selling hemp as if it's a hair product or something, and probably pretty available online.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get, very easy to order, very cheap. You know, I mean, how much is a roll of weed? 100 bob?
I don't know.
Yes, it's about 100 bob.
Yes,
My time was 10 bob.
Yeah, and the 10 bob was a great deal in my time.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it
exactly.
Was a lot.
But you see, that means it's affordable.
Yeah, it was extremely affordable
Even then.
Yes,
We didn't easily go into it.
yes.
Or whoever experimented with it was the one where 10 people are sitting and they're sharing one joint. Today everybody has their own joint and their own type.
Actually, it was rarely smoked alone.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yes,
you
behind the labs.
You smoked with your friends.
Yes. And so one joint went a long way. Today, you will not share the joint easily because you have your preference of type.
Oh dear.
And so what happens is you have your own stash, which is enough to last you a week. You're not going to share it. So what happens is you have a lot more availability than before.
What I'm hearing you, Doc, saying is that the adults have a responsibility and they seem to be shucking that responsibility, right?
Yes.
And there are very many factors that are contributing to this. I mean, you're just
Absolutely,
feeling there's the
absolutely.
life pressure
Right.
that you have all these things to do,
All right.
and you've got the needs to meet. And so you focus on that and then just hope that, just have all these balls in the air, catch the red ones,
Right.
right? The black ones, if they come on this route and there's no red one on the way,
Right.
you'll catch it.
Yeah.
If the black one just falls, you have a basket down there that you're hoping it'll get to the basket. It's pressure.
It's pressure.
How can we do this? You have to
And-
reduce the
and-
balls,
True.
increase the hands. How do we deal with this?
And it's not saying that the parents don't recognize the challenges they are having. Life has become a lot more pressured. There is a lot more need and emphasis on finance-driven lifestyle as opposed to what we had traditional or value-driven lifestyle.
Yes.
And so what is happening is as parents are trying harder and harder to give their children what they call a good life because they had a tough life. They don't want their children to go through the same thing. And so they're giving in more and more to the children. A parent will do without in order to make sure their child has got a good pair of shoes. And they won't make do with just one pair.
Yeah.
They'll do with a brand. And the parent will is probably taking a matatu and leaving the car in order to feed that. So parents are trying to fit in with society as well, and that's putting pressure on them, giving them holidays, etc. Private schools are not absolved completely. I mean, look at the education whereby every term there or every year they have a trip, and now it's not a trip to Karura Forest.
No.
Or so it's an abroad trip, and the parents are trying to fit in and saying, "Oh my God,
Child
I
must
need."
go.
Yes. And so, and then if they don't, there's an effect on that child.
So there are very many programs like, boot camp programs, holiday programs for the youth, for the teenagers to attend, so that they can be, be given, they can be nurtured, they can be
Right.
taken through. What I'm hearing you saying is that we actually need boot camp programs for adults, for parents.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're not getting that.
And not only for adults, for families
For families together.
so that they can have that sharing, they can have that time which they are not getting Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday. And then Sunday, everybody's just too tired, they're waking up midday. I mean, the day's gone.
City, that's an idea.
It's
An
a very good
idea.
idea.
Boot camps for families.
Yes.
Well, it is a very, very good idea.
And in that, then you incorporate programs. And this is where the well-wishers and the goodwill comes in. That let's have programs in that will have joint family activities, maybe a chat or two, maybe a fireside chat for the kids, for the teens. And there are some religious organizations or some paths that are being followed in that. It's not that it's not there,
Yeah.
but it's not a norm.
It's not as widespread.
You hardly hear of it. You know?
You'll hear about it during certain events, maybe circumcision. So
yes,
they
true.
will come together as parents because their
Exactly.
boys are going through this, so they'll have some session.
True.
But just a short session.
Yeah.
You need it to be something that's more
In fact,
inculcated.
what you see is some churches specifically have it for couples.
Yes. Only the couples.
It's only couples for a retreat, things like that. But the concept that you've mentioned is an excellent one.
Where's the family in it?
The entire family.
Yes.
Yes.
And you'll have church activities doing it for couples and then having it for the youth.
Yes.
Separately.
Where's the joint one?
Yeah.
But it just sounds like all of it needs to be deliberate.
Yeah,
that you need to
yes.
make a conscious, deliberate effort
Completely.
to do something about it. Because if you just assume that somebody's going to take it up,
Yes, yes,
won't
yes.
hap- it
No,
won't-
it won't
it
happen.
won't happen.
It won't happen. You know, and yes, it needs to be deliberate to say these programs need to start coming in place. These programs need to be part of an ongoing program somewhere. Whether you are going to take it from churches and mosques and temples, or you're going to take it from school, or you're going to take it from companies and corporates, and say let's have family days. You know,
Neighborhoods, a block, just
That's
saying,
true.
you know,
Christmas party should not be just the office. Make it a family Christmas party. Khan University does that.
okay.
They have family day. They just did one the other day, and it was sporting activities, children, and it was family.
Beautiful.
That's what we need more of as an ongoing, continuous, very very specific, driven thing.
Very deliberate.
Very deliberate, as you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Mahmood Merali, consultant medical psychologist at the Aga Khan University Hospital in Nairobi, has been our guest. Just taking us through this. It's not just about teenagers anymore, it's about families. And thank you very much, Doc, for joining us.
Thank you. I am humbled. I appreciate the opportunity, and let's hope there is some word going out there that says, let's take one step. It starts with one step. Starts with one person doing it.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Asante sana for following us the whole week. We'll be off for the weekend, back on Monday, but programming continues on Spice FM on KTN. Enjoy.